What's up, everybody? David Barnett here of the Tour Junkies. I got Pat Perry with me. We are excited to give you Tour Junkies After Dark, presented by DraftKings. It is late on Monday night. We just finished recording our own podcast. It was a good discussion, good stuff. If you are just getting started in daily fantasy and you want some tips, you want some advice on what to do, what not to do, at the end of that podcast, we kind of get into that for the last 15 minutes or so. You can go check that out wherever you listen to podcasts or on our own YouTube channel over on Tour Junkies. So it was a good time. Pat, we're not here to talk about that, though. We are here to talk about Arnold Palmer's Bay Hill Invitational. We need to learn a little bit more about this golf course, Pat. What do we need to know?
Yeah, so this is a great course we're on this week at Bay Hill Club. This is kind of Arnie's baby. He loved this course. He was a member here, obviously, and it's a great course. It plays pretty difficult, actually. It's played as one of the most difficult courses on tour over the last few years. So we're coming off the Honda Classic where it was difficult. And we got another difficult course here at Bay Hill. It is 7,454 yards. It is a par 72. We got only 121 players this week, which T65 and ties will make the cut. And the reason we have less players is because this is an invitational event. And so you're going to have a few more guys that make the cut. So I think that means you can get a little bit more risky with your plays because you've got a better chance of getting 6 of 6 through. So I think that's important to look at. We may look at some of those cheap guys down in the 6K range. We'll see about that. As far as the course is concerned, one of the things I'm hearing is that the rough is actually up more than it has been in years past. Now, these fairways are pretty wide, so they're relatively easy to hit, but I still think you got to keep it in the fairway on this course. I think driving accuracy is something to be looked at. Always bombers are going to have an advantage, but these greens are extremely fast. They will have them at least at 12 on the stimp meter, so that's something you want to look at. I think strokes gained approach is a huge stat this week. It's tough to get it close to the hole on this course, and so we've typically seen the winners and the guys in the top 10 finish well in strokes gained approach over the last few years. I think it's going to play pretty firm and fast. Looking at the weather, we're going to see a little bit of wind, especially on Thursday, and that's something we're going to look at later in the week. And you want to pay attention to those tee time waves this week, especially with that wind, so that could be important. But, a lot of trouble out here, too. Last week, 15 of the 18 holes, we had a lot of water in play. Well, this week, half of the holes have water in play, whether it's off the tee or into the green. So it is important that you just avoid those big numbers on this course. And there are a ton of bunkers out here, very difficult bunkers on this course. So that's another thing that we're going to be looking at. But overall, it's going to be a great week. We got a good field and pretty excited to see what happens after the carnage that we had at the Honda Classic. I don't think you're going to see quite the carnage this week as far as the top guys. But again, it is a tough, difficult course. So looking forward to it, DB. Like the hat, by the way.
Thank you.
To Arnie.
Yeah, a little Arnie hat. I think the big takeaway there, like Pat said, this is a invitational field event. So you've only got 120 players. So roughly 10% more of this field will be playing the weekend than your typical field of 145 or so players. So, 6 of 6, as always, is a must in DraftKings, but you should have a higher percentage of 6 of 6 into the weekend. And actually, it looks like the wind is going to be a factor most of the week, Pat. I was looking on Saturday, too. It looks very gusty. But as always, that can change quickly, and you definitely want to check that out come Wednesday night. To me, you already said it's a second shot golf course. When you look at previous winners here, it's tremendous iron players, and it can be bombers and it can be guys who don't hit it as long, but are good with their longer irons. These par 3s are long. Like you said, you want to get it when you can on these par 5s, and the wind is a factor. So to me, it's ball strikers. It's guys who hit it pure with the irons and play well on Bermuda, and I think also arrive in decent form I prefer not to play somebody who we haven't seen in a month or so, or comes in kind of not playing really great right now. So those are just some things to think about. It'll be a fun event. This is a good field. And there's a couple of names up top, Pat, that I think are interesting. The first one, me and you had a little friendly wager on the podcast about.
I knew this was coming.
Yes. One of us, whoever loses this bet, will be getting a henna tattoo in our tramp stamp area come Monday night of the Players Championship podcast. Whoever loses this bet. And the bet is a T17 or worse for Xander Schauffele. Now, I am on Team Xander this week. I am believing that he finishes 16th or better. Pat is saying he finishes 17th or worse. And so it is his first time playing Bay Hill. He's normally not made a point of coming here, but he arrives in decent form. Now it's not incredible Xander form, but it's in pretty good form. 14th at the WGC Mexico, 23rd at the Genesis, 16th at the Waste Management. I mean, that's pretty solid for Xander. He gained 10 strokes with his iron play in Mexico. His irons are some of the best irons on the PGA Tour, hands down, no matter how you look at it. He's one of the best iron players on tour. And I love that about Xander. The putting is always a concern, and he doesn't putt well on Bermuda, but it is always a concern, regardless for him. He's just a guy, though, who can hit greens in regulation, not make those big numbers, avoid the water and the bunkering that you talked about. And I love the value at $10,000 on DraftKings. I think you get tremendous upside with Xander. So I am sold on Xander. You need to discuss why you are not.
Well, I think Xander is a little bit of a sucker play this week. And look, I think he's just,
are you calling me a sucker?
Player.
Is that what you're saying? You're calling me a sucker?
Yeah, basically calling you a sucker. I think that he is.
When you're wearing the henna tattoo next week, we'll see who the sucker is.
Okay, well, obviously I put myself out there with this bet. You controlled the bet pretty much. So
no. Nobody made you agree to the bet. I
started the bet by fading Xander on the podcast, and so then the wheels were turning in your head. So all of a sudden you were like, okay, I'm going to come up with a bet. So you felt like you had the advantage from the start. So I'm just giving you the facts. That being said, here's the thing about Xander. Look, he's going to check a lot of boxes for you. He does not have experience here. As a matter of fact, I don't think he's ever played this course before, other than the practice rounds that he's going to get this week. But he's not checking the box for me in driving accuracy. I think he's going to be a little bit erratic off the tee. Now, I do like the fact that he's obviously long off the tee, and I think that's going to help him this week. But you look at his putting, and you look at the people that win this tournament. They are literally putting well going into this event and at this event. His last 5 events, he has lost strokes putting. Last 5 events. So you mentioned earlier, just a second ago, that putting is his bugaboo, you might want to say. And I just don't see it happening. And I don't see, I don't see the price like playing him at $10K and everything. He's not winning this tournament. It's not happening at all. And so I actually feel pretty good about my bet. And I'm not going to play him. I'm going to fade him this week. So Xander he's out.
The viewers can make their decision on what side of the henna tattoo bet they are going to be on.
He's going to literally have to be like last week or when he played at the WGC Mexico where he gained 10 almost over 10 strokes on strokes gained approach, which is a little bit unheard of. I think that's what's going to have to happen this week for me to lose this bet, because that's not happening.
See, I disagree. I mean, Xander's a world-class player. If this were freaking, I don't know, Wyndham Clark, I get that. But Xander's a world-class player. He can put it all together as quickly as anybody on the PGA Tour. So we'll see. Now, you did name a guy near this range. You kept throwing him out as a bonus play. You kept wanting to work him into the podcast, and you want to say him so that if he pops, you can be like, oh, see, I told you. But you didn't really like sell. You didn't like come around and tell us why. So sell me on a guy that I was on last week and he freaking burned me. He missed the cut, and that is Justin Rose at $9,000, which I am confident is the lowest he has been priced possibly since DraftKings started doing daily fantasy golf. I'm not sure he's ever been priced at $9,000.
Okay, so you bring up a great point right there. You're getting him at one of the lowest price you're ever getting him. He's coming off a miscut where he burned a lot of people, so his ownership's probably going to be down a little bit. I think that's important to look at. I mean, Justin Rose is a guy that is look, he's still a world-class player. He has great history here. I mean, you look at the last, the last 5 events here, he's finished T9, T13, third place in 2018, and then not so great T63 last year. I don't think, the form is what everybody's going to look at. It's not great. But look, this is definitely a course he's comfortable on. This is a course that he could play well on. He checks a box in par 5 scoring for me. Checks a box in opportunities gained, meaning he's giving himself chances at birdies. So I think Justin Rose is a good just tournament play this week. I think you're getting him again. It's extremely low owned. And I like playing those guys that, like, when they were really hot last week. I was surprised at how high owned he was at the Honda. I really was. Like, I thought he was a little bit of a risky play, and I liked him. I was with you. But this week, I think this is the week to play him. I think you coming off of what happened last week, if you want to gain leverage on the field in your tournament lineups, you got to put Justin Rose in there, and that's what I'm going to do. I think that. This is a good spot for him. So we'll see what happens.
Form,
and he also checks the box, by the way, in putting on Bermuda. It is he's not bad putting on Bermuda. He's 36th in the field over his last 100 rounds. So I like some Justin Rose.
Well, it's actually his best putting surface as well. So I think the poor form is priced in at the $9,000 price range on DraftKings, which may mean that he's a little higher owned than we think, but I do think he takes a dip. He was 20% owned on average last week where he missed the cut. But here's something I was looking at. If you go back to 2012, not one time, at least within tournaments where we have shot link data and strokes gained data from the PGA Tour, all the way back to 2012, not one time has Justin Rose lost strokes off the tee and approach for 3 weeks or more. It's not happened, but he's done it the last 3 times he's been out. At the Honda, at the Genesis, and at the Farmers, he has lost strokes off the tee and lost strokes on approach, which is concerning. But also, you got to think, he is Justin Rose. Surely he turns it around. It will be really interesting to see the ownership projections for him come Wednesday night. I think he is one to watch for sure. And if we do see a weather advantage, a tee time advantage, he's another one to look at. I mean, I didn't bring him up because I necessarily disagreed with you. I brought him up because I thought he was an interesting name to discuss at $9,000 because
I think Justin Rose is basically the equivalent of the coronavirus play of the week. And here's why I say that, okay? So we saw the market just absolutely crash last week because of the coronavirus, and everybody overdid it and overthought everything. And then what happened today? The market was up 1,200 points. He's the guy that everybody's overreacting to, and there's just too much noise out there. He's still a world-class player. Cooler heads are going to prevail like they did with the market today. And so I think that Justin Rose is just he's the guy. He's the blue chip stock that you should have played last week when the market was down. And so that's what I'm going to go with Justin Rose. So there you go.
The coronavirus play of the week. I love it. Love it. All right, Pat, let's hit some bets real quick on DraftKings Sportsbook. Let me pull them up here. Let's talk some bets. I'll throw one out. I kind of like one of the defending champs here, Mark Leishman, at 50-1. I think that's a pretty good number for Leish. He's been having a pretty solid year. I mean, he freaking won not too long ago, I feel like. Where is it? Or am I making that up?
Yeah, he won at the beginning of the year. Calm down.
Yeah.
Get yourself
Yeah, sorry,
together.
he wanted the Farmers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that number. 50-1, that's a great number for a guy who's won in his last few events and has a great history here. That's just too good of a number to pass up.
And we both liked him as a cash play here this week on DraftKings. So I'm with you there. I think that's a great number.
A guy that I'm not convinced in DFS, but I do think the number on DK Sportsbook is enticing and possibly better than you'll find on a lot of other books, and that's Abraham Answer at 70-1. Abe is quite the ball striker, really good tee to green, comes in good form, a lot of confidence right now. So I think he's interesting at 70-1. I think Poulter at 100-1, a guy who has a tremendous record here, very comfortable at Bay Hill. Had a really good week last week at the Honda. He gained strokes in every single possible strokes gain category last week at the Honda. Just solid performance out of Poulter, and now he comes to a place he's even got better record here, better history here. So I think Poulter is interesting. What do you think about Francesco Molinari, the defending champ, at 175-1? My, how far he has fallen. But 175-1 on DraftKings for the defending champ, a former world-class player who's really slumping right now, is just interesting. Maybe a little half unit, if you will, on Francesco.
I think I think you maybe throw a little half unit on him. I don't know if I just don't see the form's not there. I don't typically
definitely not there.
Betting a past back-to-back champ in bad form and whatever else, but you may just the number is so enticing.
Just the number,
175.
Yeah.
So I think you could I could get on board with maybe a half unit on that, but don't get carried away and think that okay, this guy won last year, so I want to just like triple my units and bet him. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. All right, who do you like?
All right, I got several guys in here actually. So one of them being Abraham Answer. I'm totally with you there at 70-1. I think if we're going shorter though, we're getting a guy, and this could be we could probably go on and on about this guy, and so I'm not going to get into it. But we're getting Brooks Koepka at 30-1. Why not? I'm going to play Brooks Koepka at 30-1. I don't care. Screw the injury and whatever else. I mean, he's one of the best players in the world, and I'm getting him at 30-1, so I'm going to take that bet.
That's a big number for him.
Yeah, and I think you go back to the well with Lee Westwood at 70-1. He was a guy that almost hit last week and has been playing extremely well, so I like that as well. A guy I mentioned on the podcast, Rafa Cabrera Bello at 100-1. Finished extremely well here at this tournament last year, so I like him. I like Joel Damon. You mentioned him on the podcast as a good play. He is at 135-1. And then another guy we've seen show up well at this tournament, and that is Patrick Rogers at 175-1. I think that is a pretty good play. Now I'm going to go off the wall here with a couple plays. So for a top 10 bet, Hank Lebioda at 50-1. He is a local guy. We've seen him play well recently. I like some Hank Lebioda at 50-1. And here's where this is the crazy bet of the week. Pat's crazy bet of the week. 10-1, we get a hole-in-one in the first round. Now here's why I say that. Here's why I looked at that bet. These are four of the toughest par threes that they are going to play all year. I think we're getting the longest odds that we get for a hole-in-one for the first round or any round. And so I like 10-1 that a hole-in-one happens in the first round. Throw $10 on.
That is a drunken bet there. I don't know that I can agree with that. I can't get behind that one. I can't do that one. I tell you what I would rather do is take Doc Redman, a guy who we talked about on the podcast. I think I'd rather take Doc Redman at 14-1 for a top 10. I think I'd rather do that.
I'm surprised you don't like Hank Lebioda at 50-1 for a top 10.
I don't mind it. I mean, he is a local guy. I think he's really incentivized to play here. I think he's very grateful that he got the invite here because he has not earned it. So this start is going to mean a lot to him. I think he'll put a lot into it, which is great. I love Hank. I like his game, but he has not been playing well. He's not been playing well at all. So That one's tough for a top 10.
Yeah, he's 600 to 1 to win, by the way. So I don't know if
that's
I'd
not going to
recommend
happen.
playing that.
Not going to happen. All right, good stuff. Not sure about that hole in one bet, but yeah.
God, I hope that hits. I'm going to play it.
Okay. All right. Thanks for watching Tour Junkies After Dark, presented by DraftKings. May your screens be green. Have a great week for the Arnold Palmer Invitational. See ya.
Out.